Good to see you all. It's a little bit dark today. It's rainy, so I need to keep saying this, but I need to get one of those like streamer ring light things. Bring it with me everywhere in public, and so I could be a proper influencer. Anyway, so we're on day number 4 of adding 3 new items to the game every day for 10 days. So the idea is that after 10 days, I'll have a grand total of 30 new items in the game. I'm actually beating expectations right now because I did 4 on the first day, I did 3 on the second day, and I did 4 yesterday. So we're going to continue on with that. We're going to just keep adding items. Again, the goal is to make a meaningful difference in the amount of items that are available in the game. And if I do this, several times for the remaining amount of development, I should end up having several hundred cards, several hundred items for both factions. Ultimately, I think the player will probably have more items than the enemy faction just because that's the faction that you play as, but having a wide variety of enemy items too is going to be important, especially since, there are certain ways as a player that you can get enemy items, and so I think that this is going to be a nice way of making runs feel more unique, is that having this pool of rarer items that are harder to get but can be build defining in a lot of cases. In any case, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if I should be framing the enemy items more like that. So enemy items are not just items that you fight, but they're items that could be build defining if the player were to acquire them. That's interesting. I'll have to think about that. Anyway, you can wishlist Alchemy Mortis on Steam. It's available, right, well, whatever. It's available for wishlisting on Steam. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can use alchemy to make your own builds and synergies. You can also support the development on Patreon. I am entirely self-funded, so every little bit of support helps here. But you get a couple of nice perks for supporting at the top tier here. I'll send you a key for the full game when the game launches, so you won't have to buy it on Steam, and I will put your name in the in-game Alchemy Mortis credits. But you could also purchase one of my Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. This is also a great way to support me. So check those out. Those are all linked below. And we can get right into it. Hello, Ninja Link. Good morning to you. Good to see you. Welcome back, Emerson. Ninja Link, I got Wind Rose yesterday, and yeah, I have to be very careful with that game, I think. Very careful. I only played it for an hour and a half yesterday, so I did good. I did not waste away the entire day playing it, but yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be tough to play in moderation. So thank you for mentioning that. But anyway, is the game still being able to be tested? Not right now, but there will be another playtest in the future, in the near-ish future. So just follow all the socials, the Discord and everything, and you'll be notified when that goes live. Hopefully I can join soon, yeah. With all the new juicy content. What's cracking, gamers? Hello, Junie. Welcome. Trying to start my making my own top-down roguelike game, but don't really know how to approach my project. Will items be influencing builds like factions? Yeah, there are categories of items, and then there are subcategories of items that I'm introducing as well. I don't know if there are 2 factions in the game. There's the player faction and the enemy faction, and you can get enemy faction cards as the player. It's just not very common. But then there are synergies with minions, or there are synergies with weapons. There's the tag system. So yeah, there's quite a good amount of depth here. And so right now I'm just building out the library of content basically, which should hopefully I haven't been focused on adding new or tweaking gameplay systems or anything recently. I'm just trying to add a bunch of content in the game because I think I'm gonna have a better picture of what all synergies are possible and what items are weak and what items are strong as I add items to the game. We got a ballista here, so there you go. Probably shouldn't spoil everything. We should probably leave some stuff for the playtest for you to discover, but if you watch the stream, you have to know that you're going to see spoilers sometimes. That's just how it goes. Stayed up way too late again yesterday. The pirate game? Yeah, the pirate game. Yeah. Oh boy, around 4 hours in, the game starts for real. I know, I mean, I just seeing like what's in the trailer is like, oh. I love how the guns feel in that game though. I mean, I only have the one starter gun, but the flintlock that like you press the trigger and there's like a half a second before it actually ignites the powder to shoot the bullet. Oh my gosh, that just feels so cool. I don't know what it is about those flintlock pistols and muskets and whatnot, but there's something so satisfying about them. But yeah, it is a cool game just from my first impressions, especially if you like sea shanties. Those are what I'm here for. Okay, all right. The spoilers. So now we got to figure out some new items to add. And we're going to keep it strictly related to items. Unless, I don't know, we could work on Ninja Link's suggestion here and try to make that work. The Electromite Swarm. Let's see. Oh, we could also do a skeleton, like a skeleton boss card. Or not a skeleton boss card, but like a skeleton captain or skeleton commander. Maybe we should do that. Let's see. So the Electromite nest idea from Ninja Link is pretty cool. There's a number of technical issues here though. Yeah, there's a couple of technical things that would make that difficult. So this is interesting though. So Ninja Link's idea here, every 3 seconds the artifact gains a charge that doesn't do anything on its own. So right now the artifacts are totally separate from the turn processing. But now I'm wondering if I should rework the artifacts to make them part of the combat cycle, the combat life cycle. Because then what that would enable me to do is that would enable me to make combat-oriented artifacts. So rather than, for example, the Basilisk Eye, this could just be an example, but rather than the Basilisk Eye just applying 10 seconds of paralysis on combat start, it could do something different, like every 5 seconds apply paralysis. Like it could almost be an item that's just like a free item on your board. Or it could do things, you know, like I could have one where if it's like, if combat lasts longer than 20 seconds, then you gain a special item from this artifact. Or, you know, I could have artifacts that, yeah, I don't know. That could be an interesting, I need to think about that some more. Like, would the design space for artifacts open up if I tied them into the combat life cycle loop? Now the problem is, does that make artifacts too much like just items themselves, right? Like, what would an artifact do as part of the combat loop that couldn't also be accomplished by an item? Sailing with the first large ship is so satisfying. Did you know you can use middle mouse select and VS Code to select text by area instead of line by line? Not sure what use this has, but now I know. I think you can also use Alt if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, it's a little bit different. Yeah, so this is more of like a rectangular area. Oh, does Alt not do anything? I thought there was a keybind for it. Maybe Alt doesn't do anything. I don't know, usually if I need to... I don't know, would that be useful? I'm sure there's a use for it, otherwise it wouldn't wouldn't exist. Anyway, that's interesting. I thought there was a keybind for that. Maybe not. Maybe biased, but that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, I'll have to think on that a little bit more. Hello, Neozoid, still lurking. Always good to see you. Sounds like a good idea. But a skeleton captain swinging a tattered old banner around is also cool. I mean, they could be two different things, right? We could have like a skeleton commander and a skeleton captain, and they could have different skeleton scaling abilities. And they both count as skeletons, so you could put both on your board if you get them. Like, we could do both, right? All right, let's do one of the special skeleton cards because I'm interested in. So now here's the other question, like the secondary tag that we have for the skeleton. Do we make it a skeleton tag or do we do a more general like undead tag? You know what I mean? Because then like the zombie could be undead. The Pylean maybe could also be undead. And then of course the skeleton dragon is undead. Any of the skeleton cards are undead. You know, we could think about that. More skeletons is better in my books, yeah. Kind of rare to see people use C# and Godot, which is also a reason I'm here for. Awesome. You know what's funny is my impression is that the number of people who are using C# with Godot in an absolute sense is rather low. I mean, Godot does these surveys every year. I think it's like 20% or 25%. So the overwhelming majority of people are using GDScript. But I think if you look at, this is just a hunch that I have. I don't have any statistics, but I think if you look at the major games that have been successful on Steam that were made with the Godot engine, I think a disproportionate number of them are using C#. Like compared to the general proportion of people using C#, I think it's higher among successful released games. That's just my impression, because I keep seeing like, oh, this Godot game did really well, and it was written in C#, like Slay the Spire, right? Slay the Spire, I believe, used... Or am I wrong about that? See, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I was under the impression that Slay the Spire was using C#, though. Both, yeah. I know the game's inspiration from my bagpacker. Slay the Spire uses C#. Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. I think, does Halls of Torment also use C#? I thought I read that somewhere, but I could be wrong. Okay, so let me do this. Card statistics tool. We have a lot of 2x2 cards. We have a lot of... See, I think if I'm going to do like a skeleton commander or captain, it has to be a larger card. I was also thinking last night as I was falling asleep, like it'd be cool to do a 3x2 card, which is just like a skeleton horde or something. I think that would be kind of cool. Maybe we'll write that down. Let's do... That's going to be a tough one to draw, but skeleton horde 3x2. And then we'll do like an item skeleton captain. We'll make it 2x2. Let's put the content tag here. Content there. All right, let's do the skeleton captain first. We'll just make him a 2x2. We'll just, no need to, I don't want to be too concerned about like making sure there's an appropriate number of each size of item. Like I don't want to just artificially say, oh, well, you know, I don't have many of these shaped cards, so I need to add more of those. Like if I have an opportunity to do that, that's fine. But I'm more concerned about like the theming of the cards, and so whatever style happens to fit with the theme is all right. Little gnome. I like the gnome little guy here. All right. So let's do the card creation tool. skeleton commander 2x2, create that. Pratfall uses C#. Yes, Pratfall does, yeah. I think there's a high volume of beginner content in general, and GDScript is seen as more beginner-friendly language, perhaps. Yeah. Well, I wonder how much of it, too, is like, I think there's a lot of experienced developers who already have somewhat successful or very successful games who are migrating from Unity to Godot for their next project, and they just stick with C# because that's what they've been building their games in for a while. So I wonder how much of it is that effect too. Like I'm sure did the first Slay the Spire use Unity? Is that what the story is there? Anyway, card skeleton commander. No, so skeleton captain was Ninja Link's suggestion, I think. But I had an idea personally for a skeleton commander before that. So this will either be a mix of my and Ninja Link's idea, or I will just do the skeleton captain as a separate additional skeleton card. We'll have to see. Good morning, the malicious rabbit. Still lurking, Neozoid. Day 4 of 3. It's day 4 of 3 items per day, which is not super clear, I admit, but hey, it got you to click on the stream. Welcome. Welcome, Terra the Blade. Good to see you again. All right, so now we have to figure out how to do this. I'm thinking... I'm starting with the pauldron. Okay. Always start with the pauldrons. I'm just going to do this very, very sloppy to start. So don't worry if it doesn't look that great. That head, is that head too big? It certainly doesn't look shaped correctly, but it's not quite what I wanted. We're just going to do something very basic here, like I said. So we'll fix the eyes and stuff, but I think that's looking decent. This actually looks more like a collarbone now. I was kind of trying to draw like the spine, but that's fine. And then we could do something like this. This guy looks beefy already, doesn't he? Okay, so far so good. We need another pauldron over here. I'm just gonna get all the things laid out and then we will figure out what's what in a second. Okay, so now let's do like a sternum here. So because this is a bigger card, I can actually be more detailed with respect to like the ribs and stuff. Ribs are a little bit hard. Maybe I'll just not try to do something too fancy with them. I think it almost needs to be... Does this need to be flipped? Oh. Gotta check my own chest now. How does this work? Yeah, it just kind of like comes across like this. I mean, that's probably fine. I don't know if I need to be super anatomically correct with this. He's gonna have just pauldrons and like a bare chest. Okay, that's cool. I almost wonder, yeah, I'm just wondering if like... Well, actually, this chest makes him look like he's kind of... I mean, maybe it's okay. I might move it. Maybe I'll move it this way, actually. The sternum here, maybe I should... Yeah, maybe that's okay. I don't know. We'll work on this. This is going to be iterative. Do I want to do a helmet for him? I kind of like just the bare skull. Let's make him angrier. Well, maybe we'll move this over. Yeah, that looks good to me. I don't really want to do shading just yet, but I'm just wondering... Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay. I kind of like the idea, like I was thinking maybe I should do like an action pose or something for him, but I kind of like the idea of just like, he's just standing there menacingly, right? Like he doesn't have a sword, he doesn't have a whole lot of armor, he's just there. This is gonna challenge my drawing capabilities for sure. I mean, we could add like a little sword here or something, like he's holding on to it by the blade. That'd be kind of cool. Or we could bring the sword up this way. Let me try something here. So I'm thinking it would be kind of cool if he was like, if he was holding the sword by the blade, that would actually be kind of cool. So we do something like this. And then the problem is it's going to block the sternum that I worked so hard on. I mean, we could just do one of these moves that I did with the paladin. Have this, you know, have a sword just like draped along his pauldron there. I really don't want to, if I can help it, I really don't want to obscure the detail of his chest there. So if I wanted to do something like this, I think his arm would need to be different. Yeah. The other option is to put it like this and have it reverse where he's holding the blade. That'd be kind of cool. No, I clicked because I like your content. Joy baited idiot. Hello, Hyude Dior. Welcome. Slay Aspire 2 was supposed to be in Unity 2, but then Unity did that thing. Oh, yeah, right. I remember that. Don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake, right? Thing with pixel art is with just one pixel, the entire thing looks different. Yeah, that's true. My own chest is buff. Day 4 of 3, man, is tryharding at this point. Oh, wow. Hello, Eto. Looks cool. His aura is so intense, the enemy simply gives up. Arms behind the back. Yeah, I could do something like that. It's just really hard for me anyway. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but to do something like that, where his arms are behind his back. Would be really relatively difficult, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna have some problems here finishing this up. Maybe this arm is not good. Maybe I should get rid of this. Could do something like this instead. Okay, hold on. Do I have an idea here? Now the tricky part is, so this is supposed to be like hands clasped around. How does that work? Oh gosh, I could have done something more difficult than this. Couldn't have done something more difficult than this. Let's see. Maybe that works. So hard to make him look appropriately bony without making him look ridiculous as well. I might redraw this arm here. But I think instead of trying to draw the hands as clasped, I think just have the one hand like largely over top here. Okay, I think that looks decent enough. A lot of this is going to have to be solved with the shading as well. But dude definitely has aura, that's for sure. Dude definitely has aura. And the nice thing about doing like the arms resting on a sword here is I don't have to draw his lower part. Think smarter, not harder, right? I may want to do like some kind of thing down here just to like properly give the impression. Again, it's going to be hard to do that though without looking weird. Like that almost looks like a tiny foot, you know what I mean? Maybe I just won't do anything here then. Move him back down. Yeah, I think that looks better. I think we'll just run with this then. I don't think there's any reason to overcomplicate this. Thought of one reason to allow artifacts to follow combat flow in some cases. If you have an artifact that executes on total combat turns, for mediocre example, I'll use internal system turns. Every 40 turns, deal 20 damage. This counter persists between combats. This way it will sometimes happen at the end of combat and sometimes at the beginning. Other than that, it would just be a non-upgradable item, which would also have some uses. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that could work. How do you select the whole form by color like you selected a sword? It's the magic wand tool. That's W on the keyboard. And then there's this contiguous button here. So contiguous allows you to select contiguous areas of the same color, and there's a tolerance here that you can control, but since I'm dealing with solid pixel art colors, the tolerance is 0, which basically means only match that color. And then if you turn off contiguous, it selects everything of that color in the sprite, which is very easy if you want to just like quickly try some like color replacements. Kind of looks like a pickaxe. Oh, the old one. Skeletons don't care about holding sharp edges, isn't it? Yeah. Hello, Alex. Welcome. Good morning to you, Chris. Welcome, welcome. Crossing arms. Yeah. Arms are pretty short, I think. Yeah, I think the pauldrons are big, but that's okay. The upper arm doesn't go down quite far enough. So this one here. That looks better. Hello, Respect. Respect. Welcome. Maybe we'll just redo this arm too. Is that going to be too long now? Probably, right? Yeah, that's too long. Gotta get the geometry just right. It's not looking quite right because that looks a little bit better. Actually, that might be okay. That might be okay, actually. Maybe the proportions still aren't quite right, but I think it looks better. The arms definitely appear longer now. Like if you imagine him putting his arms down at his side. When you forget precisely how long arms are. Big Bad Skelly, yes. Want to ask, as a Godot dev, where you usually find solution for the problem when developing? Is it from YouTube, AI Docs, or Google? Usually a solution to my problem is from my own brain. No, I mean, I think, yeah, I like usually when I'm stuck on something Godot related, that usually is just like searching a bunch of forums and stuff and like looking at old Reddit threads from just like a Google search. So if there's like a Godot specific problem that I'm running into, that's what I'll use. If there's a problem in my own code, if I can find the problem myself through just some quick debugging, I will just, you know, investigate myself. Sometimes I'll ask the AI to identify the bug for me, so I don't need to spend a bunch of time doing it. So yeah, I mean, it's like a mixture of tools. It kind of depends on the context, you know. Kind of depends on what the context is happening, but I use everything at my disposal. I very rarely go to YouTube videos for anything Godot related though, because it's just like a lot of the Godot YouTube videos are like specific tutorials and not like, hey, here's this issue and how to fix it. If I have the right to bear arms, why are my arms so human-like? Papyrus, but with a sword? Papyrus. Oh, is that an Undertale reference? Is that a trapezoid muscle made of bone? Well, these are supposed to be collarbones here, and then this is supposed to be like his spine. But I guess his spine would be more like back here. But I think it looks kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't need to be an anatomically correct skeleton, you know what I mean? It just needs to give the impression skeleton, you know? We're not doing doctor school. We're not doing doctor school here. We'll figure out more details to add. I've already spent too much time on this. So let's go ahead and start with shading, I guess. Papyrus farming aura. Hello, Clickertail, welcome. I usually just sit there and think about it for a good while. Okay. So I'm gonna commit this actually. From memory of what a skeleton looks like, this matches, so you got me there, yeah. Like I said, I'm not super concerned with like making everything accurate. I just want to make everything work well or look good. How many items do you already want to have? So there are 68 enemy items and 101 player items. So if my math is not failing me, that's 169 items in the game total. At release, I want to have 300 or 400 total items, because I think a lot of this game's replayability is going to come down to how many possibilities there are in terms of how you put your build together. And also, I want to extend the initial lifespan of the game. So for people who are just going into the game fresh, like, how many hours are they going to put into the game before they get tired? And I think a lot of the replayability is going to come from constantly throwing new things at the player. So if there's constantly like new card, like you're on your 5th run and you encounter a card that you've never seen before, right? Like, that's going to do something that may be something that you may want to work into your build, and that's going to require different ways of thinking because the card's a different shape and it has an ability that operates in a slightly different way to everything else, right? So the goal here is like have enough items in the game where after even something upwards of like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 runs, you're still encountering items that you've never seen before. And then to make every item have like this is not a hard and fast rule that I'm having or that I'm doing, but like generally speaking, every item should have at least one ability that is like unique in the sense that it doesn't quite work the way that everything else does. So the idea is that you have all of these items and all of these abilities that are all slightly different from one another, and that creates a little bit of an interesting way of craft. And that's, I think that has to be necessary because, like, if everything just does straight damage, or if everything just does straight poison or just straight healing and has no conditionality wrapped around it and no like special synergies or everything, then the alchemy system kind of becomes meaningless, right? So like there needs to be a whole pile of like very unique abilities that are just begging for the player to like, oh, I want this ability off this item and this ability off this item. If I could put that with swarm on this, then it's gonna, like, that's the thing that I need to encourage. And so yeah, so the raw amount of items is important, but what's just as important as the raw amount of items is the raw amount of unique abilities in the game. And yeah, I think that's how I'm thinking about it. Anyway, those arms do be looking nice now, though. Thank you. Yeah. This is why we do the live streams. You guys can be like, hey, your art looks like a 5-year-old drew it. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And then I change it, and then it looks better. Cool skeleton. Thank you. Should I make a papyrus reference in the flavor text? Maybe I should. I have never played Undertale, so maybe I shouldn't do that. But it'd be kind of cool to reference, like, I don't know. Like papyrus, like the actual piece of like parchment, right? Like the reed parchment. This is really cool. It's going to take some work to balance, but it'll be worth it. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of work, but everyone's who's playing the playtest for the most part is enjoying the game, and lots of people are putting many, many hours into the playtest, even which is not even close to a finished version of the game. So I'm very encouraged by that, and so it's just a matter of locking in, so to speak. Sometimes I find it sad. Oftentimes only like 10% of actual items are viable in a lot of games, and you have to funnel them into every single run. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid, if at all possible. What I'm basically doing with this game is I'm just creating a system, right? The alchemy system and the combat system, and then I'm just throwing a bunch of like differently designed abilities into that system, and I'm basically just saying, here player, here's your sandbox, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you what builds you need to do. I'm not going to, like make you have to acquire set bonuses to get like specific rewards. It's just like, here's a whole pile of stuff that you can work with. Have fun. That's kind of the feeling that I want to have, players experience, where like it's through your own thinking and ingenuity and strategy that you create these builds, and you can do like, super weird interactions like the machine gun snail cat or whatever, like, or, you get everything set up in just the right way that you do like 500 fire on like the 10th turn. Anyway, we'll see how well it goes, but no yummers. Oh yeah, sorry. I think I just skipped right by that. Thank you, Snubbill, for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. I'm sorry. I almost skipped I think I highlighted it, but I didn't read it out. Thank you, Snubbill. It's always appreciated. I'm sorry I almost missed your message. Thank you, thank you. How does he does he get a toothy grin, Dr. Bones over here? He looks vaguely alien without chompers. Yeah, I need to work on the detail here. We're actually gonna move into like shading this now. And that's gonna include just like, I mean, even just doing something like that works, you know. You can even just do that. Call it good. Call it a day. Or I could move this over. It's always hard, like, I always end up drawing skulls that are, like, just small enough where I can't, like, do more than, like, a couple teeth, you know what I mean? But I think that looks fine. And with the shading and whatnot, I think it's going to be just fine, so we'll do it. Hello, Mel's. Welcome. Good to see you. How long have you been working on the game? Hello, Ubi Angit. I hope I said your name correctly. Since March of 2025, so we're a year and a month into development. By the time the game is released, hopefully later this year, it'll be like a year and 7 months, year and 8 months, something like that. Which is too long. I wanted this game to be a quick game, but it's okay. For the game I make after Alchemortis, I'm going to try to get it done in a year or less. But we'll see. Coincidentally, my profile pic is just the character from the hit game Undertale itself. Yeah, that's hilarious. Multiple builds and all that, but Poison Heal will always be my meta. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Pull off the papyrus face, then I'm sure I don't see why not. Okay, tell you what. I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. When I come back, we're going to shade this guy up, and then we'll add some abilities. And we also have to add the skeleton or undead tag to everything. So that'll be interesting. And then we have to draw an icon for the undead stuff. So anyway, I'll be right back in just a minute, and we'll continue on. All right, I'm back. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. So I realize what's important when drawing skeletons is that you do want to, or when drawing skulls at least, the cheekbones are very important. Like this versus that makes a huge difference, right? And that kind of like implies that there's a raised portion of the skull here that's like the cheekbone. And yeah, that just makes a huge difference. I don't know. Just sharing that little tidbit with you all, I suppose. I don't know if I should be using red here. Actually. That's probably okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to do with this shading here, but we'll figure it out. Okay. I don't know if I like that. I may just... I don't know if there's actually anything else I need to do here, honestly. Yeah, just like I don't really know if there's anything else to do because everything else I could do just looks weird. So maybe, I mean, I may... Yeah, it doesn't look right. I think I'll just keep it like that. Might as well. Might as well. Yeah, we'll worry about this in a second. This one. Yeah, I kind of like the... Anyway. try this out, and then let's do this. Yeah, see, the problem here is I would love to be able to do this and then put like a dark purple there. I think that just gives the impression of it being a sword much better. I mean, maybe that still works, actually. That probably still works. Okay. All right, so let's do this now. Let me think. I kind of want to accentuate the sternum a little bit. So I wonder if doing that and that, I think that works. Then we could put a little darker spot there. Problem is I don't want to go like overboard with this. Don't have a whole lot of colors to work with, so I need to be a little bit careful. I may take like a middle ground approach here. Yeah, that actually looks better to me. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it looks fine. I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things where I think if you're too close to the pixels, it looks kind of weird. Okay, I think it's getting there. I can see the chat building up in my peripheral vision. You'll have to excuse me, I am locked in. You'll have to excuse me, I am locked in. I wonder if adding some extra... Oops. Yeah, I kind of like that actually. A little bit of extra purple up in there. We could use this really dark purple here too, just to kind of fade out these edges a little bit. Actually, I may make that thicker there. Maybe not. I maybe won't do that on that one. A quick game, yeah, it's been almost a year already, right? Yeah. Originally, this game was supposed to be very easy. I was like, okay, I'm going to make this like minimal art requirement. It's going to have really simple mechanics. And then like, not only did I fail at making it minimal art heavy, this is the most art intensive game that I've ever made. So it went, but you know, it's like, it was one of those things where, you know, everyone was commenting on the theme and the style and how good it looked and everything. And it's like, well, I would hate for that potential to go to waste, you know what I mean? It's like, if people are really liking the theme, then I should capitalize on that, you know? And I should make it, like, I should actually put in the effort. And the other thing too is like, this is not just some game that I like want to throw up on Steam and like see if I can make money. Obviously I do want to make money with the game. But this is the kind of game where it's like, it's actually shaping up to be the best game that I've ever made. And I would hate to just say, well, because I wanted to make it quickly, I'm just going to like squander that potential and throw it up on Steam. It's like, I actually want to put in as much effort as possible as is reasonable into this game, because I think I just want to, you know, I just want to have something that I can be proud of. Like, I want this, if I never make another game again, I want this to be like an achievement I can be proud of, you know what I mean? So that's, you know, that's part of the reason why it's taking a lot longer than I originally wanted it to. All right, let's read the rest of the chats. I've been slowly working on my game since last October, but I've kind of hit a wall on what to do. That does happen, yeah. That does happen. What I've found helpful too is like when you're in that situation where you've hit a wall, sometimes just making radical changes to the game, even just to goof off, right? Like if you have a platformer, you might say, well, what happens if I just increase the player speed by 50%? Or what happens if I increase the player damage by 10x, right? You know, like I find that making radical changes to your game, even if you're just goofing off, can actually be a good source of inspiration. Although now you mention it, probably make it a bit replica sprite. I probably make a bit replica sprite if you're making right now for funsies. Yeah, go ahead. I will accept fan art. The color palette. Did I get the color palette from low spec or did I do it myself? I think that's what you're asking. I got the color palette from low spec. Actually, if you go to the Witching Hour color palette on low spec, you will see a screenshot of Alchemortis as one of the example images. Actually, let me show you. I'll show you right now. Bam, look at this. So this is the original example, and then here's the example from Firebelly, which is a screenshot of the cards, some of the cards anyway. So that's pretty cool. It was pretty easy. I mean, I just took a screenshot at the requirements that they said and I submitted it, and I don't know if it goes through automated review or it's probably a human review for low spec, but it got approved within like a couple days. And I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, from low spec. You don't need to ask the question multiple times. I know I don't check chat sometimes for a long period of time, but I do read everything, so you don't need to spam the chat. Looks like a flower on his left cheek. A flower. I don't see it. Just as planned. Looks awesome, a masterpiece. Thank you, Imindios. My game is 6 months old as of today. Awesome. Is this your main job or do you do something else? I'm full-time working on Alchemortis right now. And I am running out of money. So either Alchemortis has to make money or I'm going to go back to being a software engineer. Which actually may be tough because like AI has taken my job. So... but yeah, you know, there's always options. But yeah, this is my full-time focus right now is just making Alchemortis. And depending on how it does financially, will determine if I continue to make games or... I mean, I will continue to make games probably regardless of what happens. It's just like I won't be doing it full-time anymore. You know what I mean? But I will probably still continue to make games for sure. It's just... It's one of those things where, you know, you need money to live. This hand is going to be the toughest part, I think. I mean, actually, maybe I shouldn't go overboard with that. Maybe that's just like... Maybe that should just be it. Hello, non-art related question, but is it normal that I'm going nuts fighting Godot's 2D physics system because apparently collision detections aren't pixel frame perfect? No, I don't think that's wrong. You know, there are problems with Godot's physics system. One problem is that it's not deterministic. So I have a game on Steam, it's called Sword Slinger. I don't know if maybe some of you have played it. It's not a super good game, but it is a physics-based game where you just kind of like... You have this programmable sword, and you can like program all the behaviors and whatnot. But this is a physics-based game, and the idea is you would keep iterating. So like you would set up your triggers and your parameters and whatnot, and then you would you know, tweak it to get it to kill all the enemies on the level. So basically you press start and you watch it bounce around the level and kill everything. But obviously you're not going to get it right the first time. So the idea is that you constantly dial it in and you keep rerunning the simulation. Well, the problem was with Godot 2D physics, the physics are not deterministic. So even with the same exact starting parameters, what would happen is the sword would behave completely differently every time you ran it. And that was obviously a problem. So what I actually had to do is I didn't implement it. I grabbed a C# wrapper of a 2D engine called Chipmunk, and I basically built all of my own physics nodes that hooked into that Chipmunk library. So I made like my own individual replacements. Like I made my own rigid body, which was a wrapper for the Chipmunk wrapper, the Chipmunk C# wrapper. And then, you know, like pin joints and all that stuff. And of course I had to do all the signal callbacks for the various collision events from Chipmunk and whatnot. And so I had to do that to get deterministic physics because Godot physics just like, yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know anything about physics engines, but Godot 2D physics, Godot physics generally, this is why they implemented Jolt for 3D, is just not super reliable and is kind of buggy. Which I guess is to be expected because my understanding is that the 2D physics engine was basically just implemented like purpose built for Godot. So it's not going to be as reliable or as robust as like people who know how to build physics engines and make those engines available for like as a third-party library. So I don't think that's wrong. How long did I make this game? Since March of 2025, so a year and a half. Test changes by double or half, yeah. That's so cool. Are you talking about Swordslinger? I'm sorry, I don't know how old these comments are, so I don't know what that's in reference to. Did you make the music for my game? No, I hired my friend to do it. My friend has no formal music training and has created several banger tracks for the game, especially the like main menu track and the first region track. Everyone loved that one. They're like, oh, it sounds like Diablo and it's like super cool. What were you doing as a software engineer? Full stack development. I was, React on the front end. I was doing all the the service APIs, database migrations. There was even a period of time where I was doing mobile app development. I was basically doing everything. Maybe this game will sell 1 million copies. Maybe. Be able to sell games for the rest of your life. We'll see. I try not to set my expectations too high. Where do you want me to put fan art? Think you can share it in Discord, yeah. It's going to be one of the top indie games sold this year. Oh, I appreciate your confidence. Thank you. I don't want to get my expectations too high, though. Like, I would be okay if it sold enough to give me enough money to, like, build the next game, right? Like, obviously, if it sells a whole bunch and, like, life-changing money, that would be great. Like, I certainly would like that to happen, right? But I'm kind of tempering my expectations. Like, I just want it to sell, like, 3 times or 4 times as well as Gunforged did, and that would be good. And I think that's a modest and reasonable thing to do. But I'm still building it as if it has the potential to go gangbusters, right? So I'm going to take as much time as I need to make sure this game feels really solid, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, I think we can call this art done. What do you guys think? Looks all right? I think it looks pretty cool. Discord, I mean. Oh, yeah, you could put it wherever. I mean, game dev, you could put it in Alchemortis General if you want. I'm not going to be super, like, Iron Fist. If you post something that's even mildly off topic in the wrong channel, you will be banned. It's like, I don't think the Discord server is big enough to have that level of pedantry, I guess is the word. If that even is a word. Hope the best because you're a really good person. Thank you, Eto. Appreciate it. Swordslinger looks like a hidden gem game. Maybe. I mean, I think it could have been done better, but I think the idea is fun. I think the idea is fun. Good to know that I'm not alone. I literally scrapped everything I've done with animatable and character bodies and re-implemented it just using static bodies and controlled via code. Yeah. How much money do you need to make it in order for you to start a new game? That's a good question. I mean, after tax and Steam cut, what I would like to have in my bank account in terms of like spendable cash after Alchemortis is at least like $75,000. Which I think is doable with Alchemortis, but of course I want it to go more than that. But I think that would be a good, comfortable amount of money where I could take up to 2 or 3 years to make my next game. So yeah, don't forget about us little guys when you make it big. I will not. I will not. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's why we'll do well. You're working so diligently on it. I appreciate the support, you guys. Thank you. It's very nice of you. Have you reached your wishlist goals for it? No, that's like a big red flag right now, is that the wishlist count is relatively low. But there is a marketing strategy in the works, and I will have more to share about that soon. Within a month or two, you guys will be hearing all kinds of stuff about the marketing effort. So, how much does Steam pay? Well, it depends. Like, so Steam has regional pricing and everything, and then they take 30% of the cut of your sales, and then your tax rate, of course, is going to vary. My tax burden is relatively high because of the self-employment tax in the United States. Like, you have to pay the Social Security tax and all that stuff, plus a certain percentage of your income, obviously. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you don't get a whole lot of money from each sale, relatively speaking, you know, after you account for Steam's cut and taxes. This 3D navigation pathfinding about to have me scrap my whole project go 2D. Yeah. Oh, you've been working on this game. When do you expect to finish? Hello, Death Streaks. A year and a half, and then is how long I've been working on it, and then finish before the end of the year. Finished means it's purchasable on Steam before the end of the year. Alrighty. So we got the Skeleton Commander. Let's go ahead and update this. Alright, Skeleton Commander, flavor text. Hello, everyone. So this is a 2x2 card. We will make it 73, so 7.3 seconds. This is a minion. And we're also going to make it... Should I make it something else? Let's see. We have a lot of ritual items. We have a lot of minions. We don't have a lot of alchemical. We don't have a lot of weapons. And we don't have a lot of relic. Would it make sense to tag this guy as a weapon? Probably not. I'm not opposed to just throwing like extra tags on something that's kind of like vaguely related, because I think, you know, like otherwise what would a minion weapon look like? Like, do I have any cards that have the minion and the weapon tag? Like, I think, you know, you could say strictly speaking, well, classifying him as a weapon is not like super accurate, but from a gameplay standpoint, it's like, if you're just doing it strictly theme-based, then you're never going to have really many cards that have the minion and the weapon tag at the same time, which may actually be useful in certain situations, right? So I don't want to be too, like, strict about these tags here. But let's take a look at the card inspection tool and see. I should be able to see if I have minion weapon. I'm pretty sure I don't. So if we go to ally cards and we do minion weapon exact tags, yeah, we don't have any minion weapons. We do have minion relic, we do have minion ritual, and we do have minion alchemical, but no minion weapons. And we actually don't have that many weapons to begin with either. Wait, did I look at this wrong? Does the player really only have... Oh, no. That's weapon only tags. So exact tags means it has to have only those tags. So these are the items that are tagged as only weapon, and then these are the items that are tagged as weapon plus something else. But yeah, there are no minion weapons, which I think is actually a huge gap that I should resolve, because I think that could be really useful. Self-employment tax is not anything higher than normal rates. The social security cost is baked into regular tax withholding a company does on your behalf. Right. Yeah, it's just like, you know, I guess the burden on you is more explicit because there's no withholding for me, right? So like I get all my money in full. I have to pay quarterly taxes to the IRS based on the estimated amount that I make in the year, and then it always ends up being the case that I owe money at the end of the year too. So it's just like, you know, I guess it's different psychologically. If you have your taxes withheld and then you get a refund at the end of the year in some cases, versus you get all of your money up front and then you have to pay like a lump sum. But yeah. Sentient Sword. Also quarterly, yeah. I have a standard of uploading something on Discord, so don't mock my text image. Special attack. Firebelly Games 3 4K survivors, yeah. The gnome could have been potential candidate. I'm just gonna tag it as a weapon. It's fine. I don't need to be super strict with these tags. Again, like the primary thing that the tags need to serve is the gameplay. They don't need to be like, well, this guy is not technically a weapon, so he can't be tagged as one. It's like, I don't need to be that strict about it. I do want it to be the case where, like, based on the theme of the card, you can intuit what the tags are. But if there's additional tags beyond, like, what you can intuit, that's fine. Okay, all right. So let's think of some abilities for this guy now. So I could take the captain ability. That Ninja Link suggested. I'm going to pull it up real quick. Innate, deal 2 true damage, echo this ability for every skeleton item on your board. Do we want to use that? I'd rather have everything up front, but the psychology is definitely a factor for most people. Yeah, that's true. The regular tax feels better because, oh, here's this money back, when in reality it just means they withheld more than needed and it's your money they took from you. You're right, yeah. Sounds fun. All right, let's take the captain ability. So I actually just did this. So the Witch Hunter has rerun abilities here. I'm just going to copy this. True damage rerun. Oh, interesting. Interesting. How am I going to do this? I don't have a way of conditionally changing how often this rerun abilities works. I'm going to need to build something different here, I think. But let's just get this working. Right, true damage. Oh, true damage. So base true damage ability. Rerun abilities. We don't need this conditional rerun. True damage rerun. So this would be base true damage ability. Base true damage ability. Base true damage ability dot description template. This becomes execute this ability again for each allied undead item. Hard skeleton commander. True damage rerun. Okay, so how do I get this to rerun a certain amount of times? What does this do? Let's do this. Private func int get rerun count func is equal to 1 by default. For var I is equal to 0, I is less than get rerun count func. Put this in here. And then we will do func int get rerun count func. Get actually, let's do this. Const int default rerun count is equal to 1. So we're going to do get rerun count func dot invoke null coalesce into default run count. I need to be careful about this. I need to make sure that I'm building everything with the system in mind. This needs to be null by default. Okay, so now we need a query target provider. So I actually need to add a secondary tag. Let's do undead. I think I'll just do, instead of doing a skeleton, I'll just do undead. Yeah, that'll work. So we add an undead secondary tag. Var query target provider is equal to query. I've been doing this, just adding like default things. So public static query target provider all allies with tag query is equal to what? Set defaults here. This needs to be false. Query target provider to all allies with tags query card tag dot none secondary tag dot undead. Non-constant field should not be visible. Why are these not want to be read-only? Oh, interesting. Okay, all allies with tags query. So let's do this and then query target provider. Rerun abilities, we're going to do query target provider dot get value. Is that it? Let's try it. Adding Jack's Discord idea would be potentially fun too. Oh, I gotta read that again. Ooh, decrease the cooldown. Interesting. Yeah, we could do that. Super personal question. Feel free to ignore, but are you full-time game dev or do you work outside of doing game dev? I am full-time, yeah. I'm doing this full-time until I run out of money, and then, or Alchemortis is successful. One of those two things will happen. Whole skeleton sprite was 36 by 36, I presume, box included? Yes. I believe that's correct. Yeah, 36 by 36. Any reason you use C# over GDScript? Just preference, typing enforcement? Yeah, I mean, that's part of the preference. So the type enforcement, interfaces, abstract classes, link, all that good stuff is, I think they're tools that are nice to have when I'm building a game like this, because there's a lot of systems and just like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of these systems, although possible to do in GDScript, would be kind of like not super fun to do in GDScript, you know what I mean? So yeah, I like the tooling that C# gives me. Oh, I need to provide... Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right, let's take a gander. GDScript setups like this could be annoying. Yeah, I think so. I think so. But we'll see. Alrighty, so here we go. Add item. Skeleton Commander. Deal 2 true damage. Execute this ability again for each allied undead item. Oh, that needs to be innate as well, so we'll make that innate. Is innate equals true. So we need to add that tag. Description utils. This would be undead. Color orange. Description keyword undead. We'll just make this null for now. I wonder if I set this up for the translation generator. I think I did. Let me see. Run translation generator. Does that put... Yeah, description keyword undead. Undead. Okay, perfect. And then... Okay, good. All right. Color orange, that's good. All right, so we need to add an icon for that as well. So let me commit what I have so far. Okay, I'm actually going to take another quick break, but we'll go a little bit longer today. I do want to get this Skeleton Commander fixed, and depending on how I'm feeling, I may just start working on another card. So, yeah, but give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back, and we've got plenty more time in this stream, so stick around. Anyway, BRB. All right, I'm back. Undead icon could be a tombstone to shake things up. We can certainly try that. Let's see. How will I do that? Well, that's not going to work. Yeah, the problem here. I'm drawing on the fungus. Oops. The other thing I was thinking about doing is like a bone. Does that look like a bone? 24-hour stream today. I don't know about that one. We can misbehave in chat. Is there a reason the fungus gigantic set all card cooldowns below to its own cooldown ability has to apply before any cooldown reduction abilities are applied to the fungus? Snail cat specifically. Really? You guys don't think that looks like a bone? You think that looks like something more naughty? I mean, I did tweak it a little bit, but... Okay, well. Is there a reason? No, there's no reason. I mean, I do need to determine an order of things. I actually don't remember how that works. Let me look at the... So the way that these things work, and this is not communicated in the game, but there is a distinct order to how the cards are executed. And they always execute in order, in accordance with this order. And the order is this. It starts with the top left cell and goes down the left column, and then it goes over a column and goes down, and then goes over a column and goes down. So the card, whatever card happens to be occupying that slot, even if it's an oddly shaped card, like if it's, you know, if it's this, that card is in this second slot. And so this will execute after whatever's occupying this card, or this cell here. So it looks like, according to the code here, and I may be misunderstanding it, but this turn cooldown that the giant mushroom is using to push onto everything else is the turn cooldown that it has after it has been modified. So whatever modifiers to turn cooldowns precede and affect the giant mushroom will change this value, and then that value will be the value that's pushed down to everything else. So it could just be an ordering issue. I wish I had like a grow board command, because as it stands right now, I can't actually test this. So this giant mushroom here, let's look at the snail cat. Oh. Are you talking about putting the snail cat ability on the mushroom as well? So there's also an ability execution order too. So there's an ability execution order too. So this fungus sets the turn cooldown of allied items below equal to this item's turn cooldown. That ability actually executes before the snail cat passive. So what's happening is it's pushing the turn cooldown that it exists prior to being modified by that snail cat ability down to everything below it, and then the snail cat ability is modifying its cooldown. So not only is there an item execution order based on their position in the board, but the abilities also execute in top-down order. So the innate ability will always go first. Of course, in this case, it doesn't matter because this is like a combat victory one, but then the second passive will go. These are combat abilities, so those don't get executed as part of that update. But then this third passive will go after that one. So the abilities always execute in top-down order, so all the passives will be collected together and executed in the top-down order that they're specified in the UI. And then the items also have a specific execution order. So I think in this case, it's just like an order of operations issue. I think it would work the way that you want it to work if the snail cat passive was somehow able to be added before the passive on the mushroom that exists by default. So yeah, is there a reason that it needs to be that way? Not necessarily. The problem is that I don't really know if it's a good idea to start violating this very predictable order of operations in order to make this specific interaction work better. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough problem. Looks suspicious. Oh, all right, I already read those. I was thinking Tombstone looked strange when you were making it. Oh, the Tombstone. The reason I ask is because I was able to get a one-turn cooldown Fungus Gigantus in one run, but it set all my card cooldowns to like 27 when its own cooldown was 1. Gotcha, yeah. It is confusing when the tooltip says the cooldown is 1, say 1 second, but then it turns everything to a 7-second cooldown. Yeah, I agree that that's confusing. And I could just make an exception here and say, like, I could just push this ability to the end of the abilities list in particular. That would violate the rule, but again, I don't know how clear the rule... I mean, the rule is kind of like not clear at all, so maybe it would be smarter from a game design perspective to just make it work how it sounds like it should work intuitively, rather than rigidly adhering to the rules. It's just, I think if I'm going to do that, I need to come up with a systemic or systematic way of defining when an item's ability execution should happen at a different point in the execution list rather than where it is by default. So I would just want to be really careful about that, because if I start just like messing with the order all over the place, that's going to create a lot of unpredictability for me in particular. So I think it's something that can be investigated. Let me write that down as a backlog item. Investigate making giant mushroom turn cooldown matching passive execute last in the abilities list to support things like snail cat ability and to be more intuitively in line with the displayed cooldown in the tooltip. Let's mark that as a quality of life thing. I'm not opposed to changing how that works in principle. I just need to, like I said, I just need to come up with a nice way that works in the framework that I've built of like overriding when an ability gets executed. You need to calculate all the effects that affect the individual card first and then execute any effect that projects onto other cards. Yeah, well, that's why I'm kind of doing the turn order thing, right? Like, rather than trying to like get all of these things to like work very net, it's like almost like a bin packing algorithm, right? It's like, well, you've got all these different things that affect all these different cards, and like, well, if it's here, it gets affected here, but then if it's over here, it gets affected in this different way, and like trying to find like an equilibrium to where you get like the max output of everything is very difficult. So I'm gonna keep the item execution order, I think. And it will just be whatever effects have been accumulated on the giant mushroom by the time it executes its own abilities will just be what gets applied. And, you know, I guess that could be confusing too, because if I have, let's say I have an item adjacent to the fungus, the giant mushroom, that just like changes the turn cooldown of the mushroom, that would happen after it pushes its turn cooldown down. So it's a really tricky problem, because essentially what I would have to do is I'd have to keep iteratively re-executing those abilities until I get to like the minimum value, or until I get to like a stable value. Yeah, that's just something that's kind of like very technically tricky to do. I could also see the potential for like introducing soft locks in that situation too, where there's just like an endless loop of things affecting each other. And that would have to be handled, like the circular dependencies or circular references would have to be handled, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Could you not violate the rule by making an ability that could activate in its place but defer itself till later? I think that could be an option, yeah. You'd have to tag what type an ability is and then execute those types in a certain order. You know, that's another option too. The other option is just to say like, is just to change how that ability works, so I kind of like dodge all of those things. But anyway. It would also be difficult with the artifacts that change cooldowns, because then how would the mushroom work with that? Yeah, I mean, artifacts are a little bit easier because the artifact abilities happen first in the execution order. So if an artifact changes a turn cooldown, that applies to every card before the cards that change turn cooldowns activate. So by the time any card is gonna, like the mushroom is gonna start pushing its cooldown to everything else, any artifacts which would have changed that turn cooldown have already taken effect. So the artifacts are like their own distinct step that happened prior to everything else. Yeah, it's just like, it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, I think it's just an inherently complex problem. And there's a way to like lean into the complexity by making the code a lot more sophisticated. And then there's a way of like, well, I'll just sidestep the complexity by either just allowing the interaction to be a little bit weird, or just changing how the ability works so that it's not so complex, right? Mushroom says your cooldown is 7 seconds, but the artifacts increase all weapons by 1 second, which is true. Right. Yeah. And I think cooldown reduction still applies after the mushroom applies the cooldown reduction. So again, what this is doing is this is doing a base turn cooldown override. So it's basically setting the base turn cooldown. The giant mushroom changes the base turn cooldown of everything, which means that any other cooldown modifiers can also affect the item. So yeah, it's just weird how that ability works, I think. It's just kind of weird, that's all. Anyway, I actually kind of want the giant mushroom here because... Oh wait, I'm not done. I need to tag all these things. Right, what was I doing? Oh, okay, yeah, so do we like the tombstone or the... I think I like the bone better. Sorry to say. It's just with the, you know, with the limited space that I have and the fact that I'm using flat colors, it's just like kind of hard to draw things. Okay. Anyway, this one card is taking the whole freaking stream. That's all right though. Duplicate this. I think that one pixel off the top is throwing it off. Doesn't have much of a rounded look. Well, I think it'll look fine. Well, is that better? This is out of date. Why is that still out of date? Why is that not updating? Anyway, copy UID, description utils, private const string, secondary tag icon undead UID, undead. Okay. I thought I had more undead items than this, but I guess not. This guy is for sure undead. This guy is for sure undead. That guy's for sure undead. Does the slime count as undead? No, probably not. I mean, we could make it undead. Why not? Are werewolves undead? I don't think so. Zombie, of course. Of course. Undead. Okay. All right, let's see how this works. Chat is just so distracting, yeah. It's all right. Actually meant the one orange pixel. Oh, I see. Well, let's see how it looks. It's fine. I think it looks okay. I can always tweak it later. So this should deal 4 true damage. Let's just make sure that that works. Oh, he critted. Okay, the other ability that I want to give him is reducing the turn cooldown of adjacent. adjacent undead items. Add undead secondary tag. Yeah. Whew. This guy's a lot of work. Am I not using that turn cooldown modifier anywhere? Okay, so is it really as simple as doing this? So int amount, set that to amount, execute. Get cached targets. Plus equals magnitude. I think that's it. So we go skeleton commander. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so skeleton commander, let's do var. This is a non-combat ability, which means that it's passive. Provider is equal to query target provider dot all allies with tags query card tag dot none secondary card tag dot undead query target provider. Let's make it pretty good. Let's make it well, let's see actually. -5. Let's do current turn cooldown. Reduce the cooldown of query target provider dot to query string template 1 by description utils dot time format 0. That's fine. Seconds. What is this missing? Scaling funk. Our scalar is equal to ability scalars dot make additive scalar -1. Current turn cooldown, that, and then we want to do turn cooldown modification, set base magnitude. Okay. All right, let's change this. Do you see how much work goes into this? Anytime I'm doing a bigger item like this, it takes a while. But anyway, let's do skeleton commander. We can override the player board dimensions as well. Override player board dimensions. Let's just do like 5 by 5. Okay, build this. There are so many steps in this workflow. Build this. Then I have to run the translation so that it appears in game properly. Then I got to check the translation and make sure my string is correct. Oh, it doesn't have the undead tag in there. So I'm going to need to add that. But let's just see if it works, first of all. What was the site you showed earlier with the color palettes? Low spec, L-O-S-P-E-C. A lot of work for a sweet item, yeah. I don't mind, like, if every item took this long, that would be not acceptable. This game would never be finished. But if I'm making a special item that has, like, you know, very unique abilities and it's got some detailed art, I don't mind spending, you know, a couple hours. I mean, honestly, if I wasn't streaming, this probably only would have taken me like an hour and a half to do. But, you know, I gotta talk to you all and everything, which is fine. Like, I wouldn't stream if I didn't want to do that. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to imply that you guys are a problem. If I didn't want to be distracted, I wouldn't stream. It'd be as simple as that. Am I still using this? This was actually going to be a float. Skeleton commander. Okay. All this translation stuff has added quite a lot of things for me to do whenever I'm defining an ability. My ideas rarely come with simple implementations. That is true. That is true. Guess this new tag lets you make enemies that are strong against undead too, like the paladin probably would be. Yeah, true. Secondary tags are already making items so much more interesting. I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah, I was worried about like the tag bloat and everything, but I think this is a good like delineation, right? Like you've got your mainline tags, which are just generally useful for various synergies, but then you've got like items that are like hyper specific to targeting those things. So yeah, I think it's good. Yeah. Skull Tower and Skull Staff could also be considered undead if you were going with more loose definition of undead. Yeah, Skull Tower. I think Skull Tower for sure can be undead, so we'll tag that. Skull Staff. Yeah, we might as well. I think there's a nice little bit of lore building there too, because it's like, well, it's wrought by a primeval alchemist and infused with ancient magics. And it's like, it doesn't explicitly say it's undead in the flavor text, but then you look at the the tag, and it's like, oh, there's like an element of mystery now. Like, oh, this thing is actually like alive in some sense, you know? I think that's cool. So we'll do that. Hello, Sean Pluto. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Good to see you here. Welcome, welcome. Is it all allied undead or just adjacent? It's adjacent for this one. Werewolf Commander next. Okay. Werewolf Commander. All right, let's give this a test and see if I did this ability correctly. Let's give it a test. All right, here we go. Skeleton Commander. Reduce the cooldown of allied items by... Okay, that shouldn't be negative, but that's all right. So if I do this, so this has a 2.6 second cooldown. If I do this now, 2.1 seconds. Boom. Oh, it's still 2.1 seconds. Oh. Oh, did I not make it adjacent? Hold on a second. Did I not make that adjacent? Skeleton Commander. Oh, I used the wrong... This should be adjacent allies with tags. Right. That moment when you have a mini heart attack because you think your system is fundamentally broken, but you just forgot to set a flag. Okay, so 2.6 down to 2. It didn't work. Oh no, it did work. I think that for some reason that tooltip doesn't update properly every time. There might be some kind of issue there. Hold on a second. Let me see. No, it seems to be working. Anyway. So we need to add the undead tag to this description here, and then we need to make that a positive integer. So we'll just do mathf.absolute here, just to be easy. And then we need to update the description. So I'm actually going to... I also want to check what happens if I upgrade him too. So let me try that. If you have it written in the code, it affect everything. I did, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Something else that comes from the subtags is the ability to reduce minion hate. Some abilities can remove the minion target and just target undead, as someone else mentioned. Good for balancing. That's a good point too, yeah. Couldn't remember what you were working on when I first followed you many years ago, so I looked it up on Twitch Tracker. You were working on the game feel of an unnamed game in C#. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, I think that may have been... I think I actually called it game field demo or something. That was when I was like trying to practice like working on my juice and whatnot. Yeah. Oh, Bullet Hell RPG demo. So yeah, this was like a Bullet Hell. I don't know. It was kind of an interesting game. I think it was above my capabilities at the time, and it was also just a lot of work. But the idea was that it was like this semi open world area with zones. And it was kind of like MMO style where like enemies would just respawn over time. And so the idea behind this game was largely just to like, I don't remember exactly. It was just kind of like, it was supposed to be like this kind of like semi-open world exploration game, but where you could do like MMO style farming. So like if you needed, like this quest here basically was like, you know, you talk to a guy and he's like, hey, I need spider legs. So you go and just like massacre a bunch of spiders. And like the combat wasn't super difficult. It wasn't like, you know, you could just like, I mean, you could see in the screenshot here, you could just like kite a bunch of spiders and just like kill them and like get all their legs and stuff. But there was like a quest system, and there was like going to be, you know, multiple entities and multiple zones where you would just like be able to like get loot. And there would be, of course, like the MMO style, like rare drops and like open world bosses and stuff. Of course, that's like, you know, that's a very ambitious project, I think, but I think it's a good demo. I still enjoy this one. But you could try it out on my itch.io page, firebelly.itch.io, if you want to check that out. That was many, many years ago. But that's funny that you remember seeing that major lift. That was a long time ago. The experiment worked though. It focuses on game feel and making it feel like a game first, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think it did work. I think that game does feel pretty good to play. I think I could do it better now because my skills have improved quite a bit. But I'm still proud of that one, and I may revisit that. Actually, so I talked about making an idea for a next game I have is to make like a single player extraction shooter in the vein of like Escape from Duckov or Zero Sievert. But instead of making it like focused on modern arms and weapons and stuff, it would be like a dark fantasy universe with like necromancers and magic and stuff. So it's more like, I guess, more like Dark and Darker in that sense. But it would be a single player like extraction shooter. And, you know, that kind of formula that I did for that little demo would probably work pretty well for that kind of game. I'm just going to test and make sure that all these things work properly. Oh, I also should test add item skeleton commander 5. Oh. Reduce the cooldown of allied items by 0.9 seconds. Do these like feed off of each other? No, they just affect each other one time. But I can get these cooldowns down pretty low here. Excellent. Okay, let's try it out. It's frustrating wanting to do things that are out of your skill level. It is, yes, it's very frustrating. Oh my gosh, look at that. Skeleton Commander dealt. Oh yeah. That's pretty cool. This item is shaping up to be pretty cool. All right. Anyway, we have to update that description now. It's so many things to do. The concept for this Dungeon Keeper game was simple in my head, and now I'm realizing that it's going to be very complicated. Yeah, that happens. That definitely happens. Okay, query, target provider. 2 query string template. Tag filter. If secondary card tag is not equal to secondary. This is going to be a mess, but I think combining this all into one thing here. Then if I go to my query target provider, this would be tag filter. Oh gosh, this is just a mess. Secondary tag filter is not equal to card tag dot none. Oh, secondary card tag dot none. Create card tag keyword. Empty string if tag is not equal to card tag dot none. Tag string is equal to that. Okay, so basically we're just concatenating all of the tags together with the secondary tags at the end, and then the rest of the logic should be the same. Secondary tag filter. Okay. I think, do I need to rerun? I think I need to rerun the translation generator. Trying to design a modular systems that I can apply across the board is proving to be difficult. Yes. Your game is too pretty. Thank you. Thank you. Is that an I to start or an L? Latromi? Appreciate it. And welcome to the stream. Do you agree with the use of AI for game make code, or you hand code only? I have no problem with using AI for code. I think the main thing that I am personally watching out for, and I would recommend everyone else watch out for, is like using AI as a crutch. If the AI is writing code that you fundamentally don't understand and you use that throughout your code base, then that's a good way to get your project into a state where it may as well be somebody else wrote it and handed it off to you, and now you're lost, right? Like, you don't know how systems work, you don't know how the data flows through the system and everything. So I would use it with caution, but I certainly use it in a lot of cases, especially when I need like rote, very basic, tedious, and laborious things to be done. So for instance, when I implemented the translation generator, which was all my design and like majority hand coded, I needed to go and update like 90 different C# script files to support the new translation pattern. And so I could have spent 2 or 3 hours doing that myself. It might not have taken that long, but I just said, hey, Claude, here's the pattern that I've set up. Here's the design of the system. You need to add these new properties to this, initialization object here, following the pattern that I've established in these 10 cases, and do it. And then I walk away, I go grab coffee, I go eat lunch, I come back, and like all those 90 files have been edited largely correctly. I still like clicked through to review everything, and I did make tweaks where necessary, but the point that I'm making there is that I understood everything that was going. Like the AI was acting as a direct extension of me in that situation, which is that I told it to do exactly what I was going to do by hand, and all it did was just save me time. It didn't do anything unexpected. It didn't implement anything that I didn't understand. It was just purely used as like an efficiency tool in that case. And I think it's really good for that situation. It's also really good at finding bugs, right? So like you've got an off by 1 error somewhere in your somewhat complex system and you don't understand why it's not working. You just sick Claude on it, whatever, and it usually finds like, oh, you have an off by 1 error here on line, whatever. And it's like, oh, that's easy enough. So it's really good as a tool for just like shortening the time it takes to do the rote things or to find stupid mistakes and so on and so forth. I guess I needed to keep doing game jams and make sure I do different genres and game styles each time. Yeah. Might have missed the explanation. What's the point of making the undead a secondary tag instead of just making it another primary tag? The point with secondary tags is to have more niche interactions between specific items, whereas the overall tags are like just generic general tags that have broader synergies. So for example, one of the reasons why the secondary tags were introduced is like, people were saying like, hey, it would be great to have like a synergy between all the skeleton items in the game. But it's like, if all I've got is a minion tag and like a snake is the same in terms of being a minion as like a skeleton, I have no way of like making skeleton specific interactions, right? Which just adds another layer of depth. So by introducing the secondary tags, which not everything is going to have, right? Not every item is going to have a secondary tag. It's only going to be the, the specific secondary tags that I implement. I can create more narrowly defined synergies and kind of like encourage the player into like a specific type of thematic build. So yeah, that's the reason for the secondary tags. They're not going to be overused. Like they're going to be just like, they're going to be there as an option for you if you want to have them. But, since they're not going to exist on everything, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to make them part of the normal tags here. So anyway, I think that's It could change, right? If it comes to find out, it really doesn't make sense to highlight these as secondary tags, then I could just merge them in, but that's all right. Trying to get Claude to help me figure out and get it working. Can't even make it work properly. Need to scrap the current implementation and redo it by hand. I use it as an advanced find and replace with those 90 files. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A regular find and replace wasn't going to work because like the structure of, so basically like what I'm talking about specifically is, so this ability builder, ability configuration, this is a configuration object that stores a bunch of data that gets passed in as an argument here. So this ability factory is a constructor argument for a composed ability. And the reason why this is a function that returns this ability configuration object is because that makes duplicating abilities very easily, right? So I'm basically passing in the constructor of the ability as a function. And then when I invoke the function, it creates a brand new instance of all of the abilities and sub-abilities so that I'm not passing anything around by reference. And I also don't need to introduce specific like duplication logic for every single ability, right? So I'm basically just saying, here's the function that initializes the ability in its entirety. And then every time I duplicate something, I just invoke that ability factory. And I get brand new references to everything. So what I needed to do for the translation is I needed to add translation-related properties to that configuration object. So the description template parameters function, the description translation key, all these things are related to displaying the text on screen in a way that supports the translation system. And so I couldn't have just done a normal find and replace because there actually needed to be new stuff added. But you can see that it's very like, there's an obvious pattern here, right? Like there's a pattern to the naming. The description template basically came from the old description. So just moving this description template and reformatting it slightly so that it works with that. And then adding the template parameters func, this is invoked to get all the values that need to be inserted into the string. Because in the translation file, like you'll see this, like curly brace 0. So this allows the translator to basically reword or rewrite this sentence in whatever language they're translating to, and then they can just move this around to insert the number wherever it needs to be. And then that description template parameters func is invoked when it's actually presenting the description to replace those numbers in the string. So anyway, all that is a long-winded way of saying regular find and replace was not going to do the job, but Claude did it pretty well. I would say 95% correctly. AI prompting is like when I was a kid and they introduced calculators, most people forgot how to do calculations without the calculator. Now same happening with code, but still love AI. Yeah. I think it's a very useful tool, especially if you use it appropriately. Like it's very much like the epitome of a double-edged sword. It's like you can hurt yourself with AI for sure, but you can also increase your efficiency quite a lot with AI. So, how did you approach art? Did you use limited color palette to begin with? I did, yes. I chose the color palette first, and then I worked from there. Are the main systems fully complete now that you're adding more content? Yeah, basically fully complete. I wouldn't say fully complete, but yes, all the main systems are in place. The difficulty system is in place. The unlock system is in place. Of course, all the main like game mechanics are in place. There's still a lot of like work, like polishing and stuff to do, but we are getting close to the phase of development where the bulk of the work is just going to be adding new content. And also, I'm kind of like, I've spent the past, several months like working primarily on balance and like game mechanics, that I'm kind of taking this opportunity now to like take a step back and just add a bunch new content, like step away from the actual mechanics of how the game works for a while, just add a bunch of new content. And then when I come back to refining the gameplay systems, my hope is that I'll have somewhat like fresh eyes to look at it. Like I'll be able to have a fresher experience and like be able to look at things in a different way, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, what do I need to do here? You won't always carry a calculator with you. Yeah. Our teachers lied to us, man. Oh, what is that? I did something wrong here. Let's see. Oh, this has to be right. Is that right now? Build that. Content is the fun part. It is, yeah. What made you become a game developer? I don't know. It's just been something I've always been interested in. For whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure my story is the same as many other people. I like games. I was interested in making my own games. I've always been the kind of person where, like, if I really like something, I want to, like, emulate it. I don't know why that is, but for example, I love Metallica, right? Metallica is my favorite band of all time. And I like them so much that they're the reason why I started learning guitar, because I wanted to be able to play their songs, right? So it's the same with game development. Like, there are certain games that I love so much that I'm like, man, I would love to make a game like that. And then it's just like, you know, just kind of push myself into learning that thing. You know, it's fun. So I don't know if there's anything in particular that made me want to do it. It's just kind of like one of those things that I was interested in, and I just kept doing it. And now I have an opportunity to try to make something commercially viable, commercially successful, and so I'm taking that opportunity. That's about it. Okay, I think that works now. Finally got the description in place. And let's see how it goes. Excellent. Okay, so that's working now. Let's add one more ability to the skeleton commander. We'll probably just make it a normal ability. Anyone have any ideas? So maybe one more ability for the skeleton commander. Let me look at the card inspection tool. Probably doesn't need to be like a super special ability. We could just probably throw some like generic ability on it. I just think it needs one more ally. Let's see, how much paralysis do we have? Exhaust, confuse. Oh, I could give it a swarm ability. That'd be kind of cool. Should we give it swarm? Definitely need more swarm abilities. We've already got a swarm bleed. So if I do swarm and bleed. Oh, that's either or. That's not both. Okay. Echo, Holy. We don't have a whole lot of shielding items. We have a lot of damage. What if it just gave armor and gives more if adjacent to 3 or more undead? Yeah, we could do that. Now the question is that too much undead synergy? Maybe I'm gonna do a little bit of a difference on that. Var armor, I'm gonna make it armor per minion. So it's just like, it's just gonna scale based on the total number of minions. So that will include undead, but then like this ability is also like an extra incentive to just like throw more minions on your board as well, right? All allies with tags query, let's do minion, and then this can be just left off. Oh wait, no, I can't. Secondary card tag, none. Const int, base armor, base shield. I should rename this to shield per minion. It's called armor in the UI, but it's called shield in the code, so I just want to be consistent. Okay, so key is equal to what? Shield per minion. Okay, I think I did that correctly. Corrupted hyenas for swarm, they could just do true damage. Interesting, yeah. A hyena. Let's do that. Hyena. I had an interesting idea for a slight change to the skull wand. What if it gives the crit chance to minions and undead, but doubles it if it contains both tags? Then reduce the crit chance from 10 to 15%. That is an interesting idea. You have a character that has a slight specialization in undead and other that has more general minions. Yeah, that's a good one. Where do I write that down? Whatever, I'm just going to write it down here. Our artifact ideas. Skull wand, change to reduce base crit chance, but double increase if item has undead and minion tag. Okay. I think more swarm items would be a good idea. Yeah. I think so. I forgot. Did I build this? I always do that one thing wrong. Oops. Wrong spot. Okay. Let's take a look and see if that works. Let's think about really high cooldown item that's like Master of Locusts or something that would trigger all swarm abilities. Oh, that's a good one. Then I'll only maybe get triggered once or twice during a full necrosis combat. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Apply 2 armor per allied minion item. This counts as a minion. Okay. That is not correct. Let's just go here though. So I should be applying 2 true damage, 4 armor, 2 true damage, 4 armor. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good to me. All right, well, this one is almost done. I just need to do the flavor text now. I will do Skeleton Commander 2x2. Okay. What's going on with that path? Yeah, that's a bug. That shouldn't happen. I gotta fix that. Anyway, that's going to be it for the stream today. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Almost a 3-hour stream, so that was good. But I'm glad I got the Skeleton Commander almost done. I just need to do the flavor text now. But anyway, Alchemortis is available for wishlisting, so definitely check it out if you're interested. The Steam page is very out of date. The game has changed quite a lot since I made this Steam page, so don't be discouraged by the poor state of the Steam page. But I would appreciate a wish list. You can also support on Patreon. You can support by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, following on Twitch, joining the Discord. Everything is linked below, so I hope to see you guys around. Thank you for your support. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Okay, bye-bye.